Hello everyone, we're joined by three representatives from Robert Bird Group. So I'm joined by Robbie here.
Hey guys, how you going? My name is Robbie Brown. I'm an associate engineer at Robert Bird Group. With me today, I have Juliet and Connor. I'll let them introduce themselves quickly. Just want to tell us what you do at RBG, you guys. Fantastic. Thanks, guys. So I've been an engineer for about 8 years now. I went to university in Brisbane, moved down to Sydney about 6 years ago, and I started in the structures team. And then about 3.5, 4 years ago, I moved into the construction engineering team. I'll talk a little bit about the differences between those two later, but today I'm here to speak to you about a little bit of RBG, and then how we're looking at getting young engineers like yourself into our graduate program. So I'm just going to start off with a quick video of RBG. Now, I won't go through the whole 6-minute video, but it will give you a really good idea of RBG and what we do. That gives a little bit of an insight. I'll briefly touch on a few other things as we sort of push through the presentation. But I guess at Robert Bird Group, our vision is quite simple. We like to call it, and we use this word a lot, the relentless pursuit of engineering excellence. So we've been lucky enough to do some pretty cool structures in Sydney and around the world, one of which is on that billboard over there, the Crown Casino, which you're probably all quite aware of. So pretty iconic structure for Sydney. In terms of locations, we're based on the east coast of Australia. So we've got offices in Brisbane, which is our HQ, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide in Australia. And then we also have offices in New Zealand, so in Wellington and Auckland. Pushing up into Asia, we have an office in Hong Kong, quite a large office in the Middle East in Dubai, and then 2 offices in London. So in London and West Maitlands. And we've also opened up an office in New York about 2 years ago, and that's beginning to grow in numbers as we speak. So we established in 1982, which is relatively quite young. Like I said, based in Brisbane, founded by a Brisbane engineer, and currently we're sitting over 700 staff. We are owned by the Sabana Jurong Group, which owns a number of companies around the world to form a larger sort of engineering consultancy firm. Our disciplines, as I sort of touched on earlier, we have the traditional structural engineering, we also have civil engineering, and we also have construction engineering. In Australia, we don't have a geotech division as yet, but our London is quite well versed in that space. And then we also have a VDC team, so that's virtual design. We sort of put together animations and videos for clients and contractors on how to actually put everything together using analysis. So Connor is representing structure today, Juliet's got civil covered, and I've got construction engineering covered. So structural engineering, so as the name suggests, we do structural engineering. So that is what I like to think of it as the skeleton of the human body. We make sure that the buildings and the structures stay up during wind and earthquake events, and then the general vertical gravity loads and live loads that get imposed onto the building. Now, we've done super tall buildings. Crown Casino sits over 280 metres tall. I was lucky enough to be involved in that project, pretty iconic. And then we've also been involved in the second tallest building in the world, so Medika 118, we actually were quite heavily involved in. So second highest building in the world to be a part of it is pretty cool. Civil engineering, Jules probably speaks better than I can about civil engineering, but it's, I guess, the design, planning, construction of all civil works. So a good example is Barangaroo Reserve. So all overland flow, flood modelling, our team is very well versed in that space. And then construction engineering, sort of what I really like about structural engineering. So it's helping builders, clients, contractors come together and actually looking at a staged approach on how you actually construct these quite elaborate and complex buildings. So a good photo there, and I'll talk more about it later, but it's the new Allianz Stadium at Moore Park. So the building is very heavily driven by the construction phase and the construction phase services on that, making sure elements are not overstressed during construction and they don't fall down. So a sort of prime example of that is looking at scaffolding, formwork, but also more elaborate structures such as stadium roofs and ways to support those before they get locked into their final position. The VDC, we have a very large team in Melbourne, and we've just got a new VDC person here in the Sydney office. They put together, using gaming software, videos and models of towers being built, large construction projects being combined together, and how we look at that staging from a construction point of view. So we've got some key projects in Sydney, looking around Darling Harbour, Walsh Bay Pier. I've been lucky enough to be involved in as well, working our way around Barangaroo. Over the backside there, you've got Woolloomooloo Wharves, and then you're coming into your big high rises. So you've got Crown Casino, one Sydney Harbour, so there's 3 of those tall structures being involved now, and then the Sydney International Convention Centre, one Central Park, and then coming into the wharves on Jones Bay there. So again, lucky I've been involved in a lot of these projects, and being a Robert Bird, you get to, I guess, work on the very best on projects on offer. So Project Spotlight. So as well as those other projects I've been involved in, this is a very recent one. So this is out at Parramatta. It's called 8 Phillip Street. So you've got a render on the right-hand side on what the structure is going to look like. So that's sitting up at around 200 metres tall in the middle of Parramatta, just near the Parramatta River. Now, we had a very complex constraint that we had to deal with this in terms of the structure and how to build it. So over in this corner here, you can see a little church structure. Now that's heritage. So Parramatta Council, as part of the heritage requirements, we could not remove that. So there was talk about removing it brick by brick and then rebuilding brick by brick. But the consensus and the number came that needs to remain in place while we actually do the digging, remove the soil, and then build the structure and all the other ancillary items that you need. So without delving into too much detail, I've sort of worked on this for about, would have been almost a year, looking through staging, construction methodology, working closely with the contractors to come up with a sequence that allowed us to keep this facade or keep this section of the church, backprop it down to a brand new slab on ground, and then provide temporary support while you dug in underneath. So I'll just touch on a few key elements. So this structural slab there, so that's suspended off these little steel needles. So we call them plunge columns. So on the bare bones side, the actual columns were piled down and dug it down into the rock. So that was the first thing done on site. So they went down into the bedrock below. Now, once that was done, this suspended slab was then poured on top of those piles or those steel columns. Then as they dug down progressively, once they exposed, I guess, the level of the bracing required, they put in these bracing elements. So those bracing elements supported these columns. And as you probably know through your engineering time here, that was done to reduce the effective length of the steel column. So if you were to have a steel column that went from that point all the way to the ground without any restraints in the middle, that column itself would be huge. So the size of that member, we would have just been too big to firstly source and then install. So we worked a lot with the contractors to actually put in a series of these braces at strategic levels in order to reduce the effective length of these columns to size them suitably. So I think we had the largest 500 WC available on the market, available in Australia. So you think about a 500 WC, absolutely massive member. And they're sitting around 500 kilos per meter. And then we have, given the pure height of the column, we actually had to splice it.
所以我们现在我们是我现在应该不欠你了，是吧？
Sorry. Yeah, so very large steel members that had to be spliced together. So again, a lot of work, a lot of coordination that went into actually doing this design, all while supporting brick is extremely brittle. So any deflections that you saw up here would be reflective of cracks within the structure. The other thing we had to contend with is you've got a lot of soil that you have to remove. At the time, this was the deep factory, around 40 meters deep. So you sort of think 40 meters down, you've got a large, we got 50 meters by 100 meters soil and rock you have to remove. It took about a year to get from top to bottom. Pure just digging, removing rock. In order to do so, you have this large, and this photo does look at scale. I don't have a photo to provide context and scale, but these were absolutely huge figures, sort of what you'd see on a normal civil works project. So that soil got removed. There was a clamshell excavator that sat up on this suspended slab, and then you'd have these big truck and dog trailers that would then load and then slide out again. So another key requirement was not to block Phillip Street. I don't know if anyone knows Phillip Street in Parramatta, but quite a busy road. So you couldn't have large trucks sitting up on the road while they unloaded material. It was an absolute nightmare to Phillip Street. So the trucks came off Phillip Street, sat up on this suspended slab, and then the soil got loaded onto those trucks, taken away. I'm not sure where they were taken, just got taken away. Not really my problem, but they got taken away, and that was that. I guess a fun fact for everyone, there's a lot of skinny sandstone around, and that actually gets sent back to councils, gets sold off. So you can actually reuse a lot of this sandstone product, assuming it's been cut into blocks. So at the moment, I don't have a current status photo at the moment, but they've actually completed the dig. They're now halfway back up the dig. So it's sitting around 12 meters below ground level. Very interesting project, very demanding project. And it's something that I've had to sort of come to grip with in terms of complexities around not only pure structural engineering in making the number, and their clients to understand what they're doing. So a big thing for them was the distance between those braces, the horizontal braces, in order to fit the machinery. So something structurally we don't necessarily have to worry about. It wasn't the most efficient design, but it allowed them to get the biggest machine in, to make the dig as quick as possible, which was a driver for them. You can sort of see these braces all go back towards the shoring walls, so the big pile shoring walls. as you got down to a level, the pile shoring wall stopped, and we just anchored straight into sandstone, which you can see there. So that sandstone, it's almost as strong as concrete once you get down to that level. So there was no point in putting concrete there to anchor it into. So we were able just to anchor straight to that sandstone. A very challenging project, a very interesting project. And if any of you go past Phillip Street in the near future, you'll see this church there now, and you'll see a big crane next to it. And they'll start coming out of the ground very soon. So watch this space. Very interesting project. Another one that I wasn't directly involved with, but had minimal impact on, the Sydney Football Stadium. So RBG was contracted by the John Holland client to perform construction engineering for the project. So that included a number of various items. So you can see these tower frame towers here. Now, you'd normally associate those with actually putting a tower frame on them and move material around sites. What they're actually doing, so you had two towers, they're actually supporting the roof. Now, to do so, there was a steel module that sat on top of these tower frames, and the actual roof structure, the roof ring beams, these elements here, sat on these orange steel elements in reconditioned. So the one thing about these large stadium roofs is they're not actually self-supportive until all elements. So this is generally seen around the world, because you don't want any big columns sitting right in the middle of a spectator trying to watch the sport or watch the concert. So it's a massive driver for a lot of these stadiums is to have column-free, obstructed-free views. You watch the game on the weekend. So a lot of effort, a lot of time went into that. As well as that, you've also got these ring beams being put in at different times. Now, being steel, as you probably know, steel shrinks and contracts under heat. So understanding on when you actually make your critical connections. So your critical connections being where you actually connect. You've got a ring beam coming through here and another roof beam, ring beam coming through there, and then making that connection. So critical to the job, there was a lot of play and tolerance, and you can push these elements up and down. They have big tacks on them to move them up and down in order to get the right alignment, connect it all together. As well as those sort of key bits of structure, you've also got these platforms in which they sort of sit up on the podium in which the future seats would get connected to, and they actually support these decks in which your EWPs, so your elevated work platforms, such as knuckle booms and scissor lifts, could actually reach up and access the connection. So these things don't just drop in a box, you have to connect them. In order to connect the bolts, you need a human connection. To actually make the connection, you have to put human up there. So that's why these EWPs are so critical in allowing you to make that connection happen. And they run across, for each of these little white lines is a steel sort of truss, roof truss, that gets connected at that point and gets connected back at this ring beam at the back here. So to make those connections, you had to work around the building in strategic ways in order to make that structure and to make the roof. I don't know if anyone's been to the stadium recently, but it is complete. Quite exciting to see it come to life very quickly. And I look forward to watching a game there in the near future. Still yet to see a game there, but I've been there a lot during construction. It's quite surprising that these massive steel elements get sort of shipped in and actually assembled within the ground space. So there's not a lot of room around Allianz Stadium. So to actually have room, they made sort of assembly areas within the ground. So that allowed big crawler cranes to pick these things up and load them into position. Quite a demanding project in terms of craneage and detailing for these assemblies.
So yeah, can you please get closer to the microphone? If you are away a bit, sometimes your voice is a bit low. Yeah, thank you.
No worries, Mike. Thank you. So our graduate development program. So For 2013, we are focusing on the pursuit of engineering excellence. I guess that's why we're here today. We need graduates, undergraduates coming through our company in order to deliver for our clients and for our jobs. So we want the best and brightest. In order to do so, we sort of focus on these areas. So we have workplace wellbeing and resilience, understanding corporate support structures, effective time management and organisation, effective communication and teamwork, working in a collaborative team environment, problem solving, critical thinking, technical capabilities, global sustainability, project management fundamentals, site inspections and site safety, stakeholder engagement, client interaction. The big thing for me, and something I've sort of really focused on recently, I go out to a lot of sites, is site safety. During the construction process is where a lot of accidents happen. So actually being able to say, hey guys, there's an issue here, there's an issue here. This morning I picked something up. I actually was on site this morning and there was a scaffold leg that was actually cantilevering off and not being supported by it. I raised that with the client and they acted it immediately. So it's all about safety and what we do and helping our clients in order to achieve that safety design. So a graduate learning journey. So we have a dedicated graduate learning pathway where you've developed both technical and professional skills. We have formal learning sessions, graduate mentoring and support, professional and technical skills boost, spirit and excellence, and graduate awards. We have some of the best engineers in the world, I think. That's some of the smartest people I've ever met are actually people who I work with. So not only in Sydney, but in Brisbane, Melbourne, New York, Dubai, London. We have a world of knowledge in order to tap into. So you'll be developed, you have access to all these people in order to develop skill set and your understanding. So life at Birds. I should mention that Birds is short for Robert Bird Group. It's just a nickname that we call ourselves. So you can sort of see here, I'll sort of touch on, most of these photos are from the office. So this was from our Christmas party last year, Are You OK Day. We actually have a multicultural day where everyone comes in from different cultural backgrounds and brings in their food that they sort of enjoy at home, which is probably my favourite day of the year. I absolutely love that day because I get to eat things that I normally wouldn't eat at home and it's delicious. I really enjoy that day. We recently had Valentine's Day where we all stopped for about 2 hours. We ate everything that had pink icing on it and donuts, iced Vovos. It was absolutely fantastic. So there's a lot of really good fun opportunities, not only to sort of have a break outside of work, but to get to know people and to sort of network in a more social environment. That's another photo of our staff Christmas party last year. A lot of fun. There was a secret Santa in which someone gave another person a Christmas toilet roll. So it was actually, it's a bit of fun. And you get it, we have a lot of opportunities to go out onto site, to do sort of site team walks and see how things progress on site. Because we're not out there all the time, we sort of lose sight of what's actually happening out on site. But these opportunities to go out as a team, do a site walk are pretty important and I think are really enjoyable. So other benefits to RBG. So we have health and wellbeing, discounted Bupa Health, employee assistance program, so generous leave policies. You can purchase leave throughout the day, paid parental leave, study and exam leave, and one of my favourites, you get a day off for your birthday as annual leave. I love that as well. Get the long weekend in. In terms of your professional development, the structured training throughout the year. So a lot of we have a dedicated sort of training program team that's run by senior associates and senior engineers within the team that are able to do presentations on programs like Strand 7, detailed structural analysis, concrete design, anything that's sort of niche and they really like to present on, they'll do it. RBG also pay for one of your professional membership per year. So I'm lucky enough, I'm chartered CPN. Robert Bird covers that cost for me. That's absolutely fantastic. I don't have to worry about that. Each quarter, there's awards given out in recognition of your efforts. So that can range from a gift card, a letter, a day off. It's fantastic. Flexible working. Now COVID's behind us. We've actually been able to work in more flexible ways. So as a team, and I run a team myself, I've got sort of 5 engineers sitting underneath me. Most of them come into the office to do their work, but there's odd days where they actually work from home or set days in which they do. So flexible working, if they have to stay home for a day, they can without compromising their work quality. And we have processes in place to actually allow our team to function efficiently. So no sort of loss of productivity. We can still deliver to what our clients want and on time and on budget. There's corporate travel discounts. I'm yet to actually, it's a good reminder for me. I might even look into this, see if I can get some cheap flights. Novated car leasing options. I know a few guys have done this and they've actually used it quite well. And then an employee referral scheme. So if you refer your friend, your previous colleague, they pass probation, you get a cash reward. So quite handy. So there's a couple of videos coming up on what our graduates and grads say about life at RBG. So why did you decide to join RBG?
Joined RBG because they're a significant engineering company, especially in Sydney. They're renowned for many city-defining projects, especially One Sydney Harbour and the Crown Casino, and it's exciting to see how they're defining the shape of the city for the future.
That wasn't scripted, by the way. So what's a typical day like at RBG?
Day at RBG would see me coming in, we'd have a few meetings with my team, catch up on what's been happening. I work on all kinds of different things every day, so it's hard to say what I'd be doing in one day, but say I could be working on drainage, I could be doing earthworks, pavement, some flood modelling, and usually all of my day's work is split up by a nice picnic in the garden.
What's exciting about working at RBG is that there is never a typical day. Every day is different, and it's exciting to come into work not knowing what you're going to be tested on, especially developing your engineering skills and developing new mindsets to engineering practice.
So what have you enjoyed most about working at RBG?
What I've enjoyed most about working at RBG is the wide array of engineering you're exposed to on a daily basis. It's also exciting to see how we're shaping the city around us and how we're developing on previous practices.
What's the culture like?
At RBG, the office is so friendly and supportive. There are so many opportunities to meet different people, socialise and network. It's been so great to be able to make some great friends that are in my team, but also outside of my team.
Probably just to that point, we have a very open office. You're not sort of segregated in terms of your position within the company. We have our operations manager talking to our graduate engineers. So there's very open, there's open lines of communication, doors always open policy. So it's very, very good.
The culture at RBG is that there's always something going on, be it celebrations of holidays or global events, or even just small things like catch-ups on a Friday around the office.
So I guess one of my favourite things about working at RBG, we actually have a very good beer fridge. So Friday afternoon, around 4 o'clock, I'd sometimes push it a little bit earlier. I'd come in, grab a beer, and I still do my work. I don't clock off for the day, but it's that more social aspect of life. You still deliver on what you got to deliver, but then you also have that social aspect as well. So what support have you received from RBG?
So I've received so much support while working at Robert Bird Group, from accommodating for my university timetable to working from home, supporting my extracurriculars and hobbies, the flexible hours. It just makes working while doing uni so much more feasible and enjoyable.
The support I've received whilst working at RBG has been amazing. There's so many brilliant engineers around the office, willing and capable of helping you with the challenging tasks that you'll encounter every day.
What's your favourite project to work on and why?
One of my favourites has been a new one that we've started working on, the circular quay redevelopment. It's been really cool to kind of dive into Sydney's history and learn all about the drainage network around the city, and jump onto the flood modelling with that, and really getting involved and learning about the history of our beautiful city.
My favourite project I've been involved with at RBG is actually my current one. It's a new 50-storey residential tower in St Leonard's. It's exciting to see the work that goes on behind the scenes to getting a building out of the ground.
What advice would you give someone joining the RBG team?
The advice that I would give to an undergraduate joining RBG is to really enjoy the experience as an undergraduate. You know, you're in such a great opportunity to learn, so make the most of it and ask as many questions as you can.
The advice I would give to new graduates at RBG is to always be flexible and able to adapt to different demands of projects and teams, especially around your flexibility with engineering practices. I'd also say you need to have a willingness to learn, a confidence in your own abilities, and the maturity to step up and ask questions, especially when you're uncertain.
Thanks, Noel. That's good. So, current opportunities at RBG. So we're looking for 3 graduates in the structures team, looking for a graduate in the construction engineering team, and then a graduate engineer in the civil team. There's also expressions of interest for undergrad/intern positions for the structures team as well. So if you're sort of second, third year and wanting to apply, that's sort of where you'd be looking at jumping in that undergrad level. These positions will be offered on a full-time basis commencing 2024, with the potential to work on a part-time basis in 2023 being this year, while you complete your final year of your degree. So applications close on the 1st of April. So it's the 13th today, so you've got a bit of time to apply. So I guess that's a good segue. How do you apply? They are now open. So speaking, that's all right. That's all right. Oh, just one person. So speak to one of us after this is sort of finished up about the recruitment evening that will be coming up shortly. You can go to that website written on the screen there, or we have little laminated pieces of paper out here with a QR code that will take you directly to our application. So I strongly suggest that everyone jumps on, applies. It's a really, really good event, our graduate evening. I've been involved with them for sort of 4 years now. It's a really interesting sort of application process, something you'd probably never experience at any other company, where you all come in, you do a little problem solving group sort of challenge. You then go off with a couple of our engineers. So you can range from getting our GM right down to getting some other engineers, and you sit a little interview, sort of an impromptu one, nothing too formal, but just getting to know you, your skill sets, what you like, what you don't like, how you're finding university. And then from there, the selection's made and then you're contacted to join RBG. So that's me done. If you've got any questions, please come and see myself, Robbie, Juliet, or Connor. More than happy to answer any of your questions, project related, graduate applications, undergrad applications, what it's like to work at RBG, what I don't like working in RBG, like what I don't like working at, which is nothing. I love RBG. Some long hours sometimes. It's all good. Any questions, I'm more than happy to answer. So.
Oh, hello. Yeah. Just to ask you some question like this, because I'm an international student at the moment studying in Melbourne. So, do you accept international student application for graduate program?
Not at this stage, no.
Oh, so only the locals, yeah, but
Only Australian residents at this stage.
oh, so
Yeah, go
even
on.
with working visa, I still cannot apply. Yeah.
That's a good question. Working visa.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just reading our frequently asked questions. So you will be considered, but we do not currently have capacity to offer visa or sponsorship for a working visa.
Yeah, but if I can get my working visa, like the student graduate visa, is that accepted or not?
I might have to check with that, Mike. I'm not too sure.
Yeah. I know as a lot of international student, all of us concerned about this issue. If we have got a graduate visa 2 years, now it becomes 3 years for the bachelor students. So we can work 3 years full time with no limits. Yeah. And then after that, if we can, most students they can do is like what we said, could try our best to work on the permanent residency, and then based on that, we might be able to keep work permanently. Yeah.
Correct. So what I suggest would be to apply regardless. You never know what's going to happen. So that would be my suggestion. Apply and we'll consider applications from there.
Okay, and also one more question for you, sales. I graduate mid of June, and is that still all right to apply for the graduate program? Or?
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
So you've got July or August intake for graduates?
There's no intake as such. Every application will be considered on their merits. So each person will be different for that. So there is an opportunity, yes. But it just depends. Yeah.
Okay, thanks again.
So at the moment, 8 Phillip Street was extremely challenging. I'm also working on the new Powerhouse Museum out at Parramatta, and that is by far the most complex project I've ever worked on. And I reckon it's probably the hardest project in New South Wales, if not Australia. So very difficult steel structure building. If anyone's in, jump online, have a quick search of Parramatta Powerhouse. Extremely different job to what we're used to in Australia. So that's really keeping me busy and my team busy at the moment. Lack of engineers, lack of resources. So that can be anything from timber to steelwork. That's what I would consider the biggest challenge at the moment for contractors, is that pure cost of getting material to Australia in order to build. So you would have seen a lot of companies, a lot of building companies sort of go under recently, and that's been driven by just the cost of product to bring into Australia in order to build these structures. So that's what I would consider the biggest challenge at the moment. Yeah, so we're an engineering consultancy company. So the way and the best way I can describe RBG to other engineering firms is we're considered a builder's engineer. So that was established way back when Robert Bird first started the company back in 1982. He worked very closely with clients and builders and developer builders in order to create and design structures that have the buildability in the back of the mind. So everything we do, it's all about, okay, can we build it? How do we build it in a safe manner, but also is able to be built? That may mean that some member sizes have to go up, but in the long term, that's not a massive deal. But if you can't actually build it at the front end, so making allowances for craneage, EWPs, larger loading, it's all at our front of mind for these type of structures, which are very complex to build. So the easier you can make these things, the better. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, so the way we do it is we don't offer it as RBG, but because we're part of Sabana Jurong Group, now Sabana Jurong Group own a number of companies around the world, and they actually own SMEC. So SMEC, I don't know if anyone's heard of SMEC, but they're our sister company. So we have the ability to, if we're required to do the geotechnical engineering side of things, we subcontract out to SMEC and we use them as our geotechnical capability. So that's how we get around that. Yeah.
So Mike, like I was saying in the video, I didn't expand on it much, but the current project I'm working on, it's all residential, but it's a mixture of concrete and steel work. It's going to be interesting to see how we build it in the future, but yeah, it's complicated. Yeah.
Oh, hello, for graduates the recruitment. So what's what is the requirements for the graduate recruitment? What skills or some knowledge we need to have?
So basically, like, as long as you're technically sound coming out of university, I think that's a great start. But then, like I was saying in the video, adapting to the requirements from work. Working at RBG is not exactly like coming out of university. It's definitely a step up, but as long as you're flexible and able to adapt to that new working environment, I think you'll go well.
Yes, but one thing I know normally for graduates, it's a very competitive, like we get around more than thousands of applications. So is there a suggestion that you can provide to win or to be successful within the thousands of applications?
Being able to work collaboratively is definitely a thing that isn't measured in terms of university necessarily. Like, I know you have group projects, but they may not be the biggest contributing factor to your success at university. So being able to showcase your ability to work in a team and take on board different ways of thinking in projects is definitely something that we would evaluate, I think.
I think it's the big drive for everyone. And at the end of the day, we are a business and we deliver a service. So being able to work with clients, contractors, other engineers, which we do a lot, be able to communicate your ideas in a way that can be understood by non-technical people is a massive challenge we have it day to day. And the more you do it, the better you become. I guess coming into RBG, you're not expected to know everything, be able to do everything. It would just be unrealistic. So there's people around you to help support you. But like I think Connor said in his video, you want to have the willingness to learn and do what you need to do to get that knowledge and to really sort of take on that skill set, which we do offer. It can be hard at times, I'm sure. Connor and Juliet can attest to it, but you do progress quite quickly. You're willing to as a fresh engineer, as a fresh undergrad, I would suggest do as best as you possibly can. Focus on your studies. It does work in your way favor if you've got good results, and that does help. Now, I wasn't a straight. I don't know. I went to University in Queensland. I don't know what the scoring system is here, but I wasn't a straight 7 student. I definitely wasn't the smartest, but I was able to get an opportunity and to run with it. I worked very hard to get where I am now, and I enjoy what I do. I still wake up and really enjoy what I do. So as long as you're still working hard, dedicating what you need to your studies, learn as much as you can at university. That's a big plus for us. Yeah. It's all personal. Now, sounds like you're doing a very interesting field degree. I didn't know that would be possible. I know it isn't. But my thing was I love structure. Like going through school, I was good at maths, physics, but I also used to go out on the weekend to build cubby houses in the bush. Like that was just my thing. I like structures. I'd walk into buildings and I'm just like, we have a real team of knowledge. I want to know how that. So that's how I got into structural engineering. That's why I got. So it just depends on your preferences, and you'll find your way. I don't know if University of Sydney, if it's sort of a general first year where you do similar courses, you do basic, but sort of find your own way. Okay, so I would suggest we need more of everything. At the moment, like that's just a blanket statement, so the favourable position for engineers. So stop war. Sorry, what was that? I just missed that last bit. Yeah. It's going. Yeah. So I haven't. Yeah. Well, in terms of, I'll take you back to when COVID first started. There was a lot of like, oh my God, we're going to lose our jobs. We actually grew in that time. We actually, yeah, as RBG. Now we're in a position where we work on, and something I didn't mention before, but we're working on Sydney Metro jobs. So these are big jobs that actually last 5 to 10 years. So Crown Casino is a perfect example. We started on that in 2013. COVID-19 sort of hit Australia in start of 2020. The building was halfway done. You can't stop those type of jobs because they're going to last another 3 years. So we're in a position where we actually could ride it out, and we could sort of, we're working on government jobs. There's large infrastructure jobs continuing, and investment in large government jobs. So we were very fortunate that we grew, and it was the busiest that we've ever been in terms of projects. So it's very fortunate that in Sydney, that is. We live in a great city, and we've got some great projects on the horizon. So there's always going to be money being pumped into Sydney, which is good. Correct. Yeah, that's a very good question. They are very different. So at the moment, I've got a client who I've worked with for 5 years now on the Wharf. I'm the only one that does their work. So they come to me for everything. Now, that doesn't mean I do it all. I've got a team to help me that. You have these smaller private jobs that are driven by clients or developers, and they're very selective on who they want to go with. They're normally driven by price until a point where you've shown your capabilities, and price doesn't really become a factor. They want to work with you, the person, rather than looking for a cheap alternative. So we're by no means the cheapest in the market because we provide a very good service, and we charge accordingly. But for those type of developers who see value in what we do as sort of a buildability engineer, they stick with us. There's other developers and clients who are driven by price, and they tend to move around a little bit. In terms of the public space, the large jobs, there's a lot more gates and approval processes that we need to go through. So being an RBG, we've got a large base of 700 plus people. We can deliver on these large jobs. So at the moment, the Brisbane team is just about finished Cross River Rail, which is a massive rail. I don't know if anyone's heard of it, but joining south of Brisbane into the city and then to Roma Street, which is a huge job. Large government job that can only be delivered by large. So we're in a position where we can actually deliver that job. And the same thing here with a lot of the Sydney Metro, Crow's Nest Station, Waterloo Station, we're able to go on those jobs. Yeah, I think it'd be silly not to start lining stuff up as engineering firms to start looking at those jobs because they are career defining jobs. And the fortunate thing that we have at RBT, it was founded by a Brisbane guy. HQ is still in Brisbane. So that's very good for us. That's all I'm saying on that. But, yeah, very fortunate.
Yeah. Yeah, so I do commerce and civil. I actually only added the commerce degree later on in my civil degree, but I added heaps of, I guess, like qualities of working at a global firm. So we do like different subjects on like cross-cultural management and those kind of things, and they've definitely helped in the team and around the office.
Yeah, okay. So I started in the structural team. Structural engineering is the pure building side. So you build, like you design a building, that's it. Construction engineering is, I guess, temporary work. So you work with the permanent works engineer, which are the traditional structural engineer, to help build the structure and make sure it stays up during construction. So it's quite an important role because you don't want these large jobs failing halfway through construction. So that is literally that is the difference. In terms of if you're a structural engineer, you can still do construction engineering, you can still do civil engineering. They're all the realms of engineering, civil and structural engineering. It's just slight differences on what you actually do day to day. Oh yeah, definitely. So I started in the structural engineering team, then moved to construction engineering. So all the principles, theories, they're all exactly the same. They're just a different application of those theories and design processes. Yeah, so we do everything. We're geared up to large projects. That doesn't mean we can't do the smaller jobs. We still do 30-level commercial towns. We still do 15-story residential buildings. What was the one you're doing in St. Leonard's? 40 stories. 40 stories. Yeah. Yeah, so it's quite varied. I've also been personally into engineering. That's where you want to get. So we do if it's 200 meters in the air, it's 50 meters above the air, 110 meters above the air. But obviously, the bigger you go, higher risk. That all plays into it, and you need a large development to produce what's required to deliver those projects. So they do. Depends. Yeah, there is. So what I didn't mention is we actually have developed our own in-house software called Magpie. It's a very large investment by RBG. So it's essentially a program in which you can pull in large Revit files in terms of building structures, and you can calculate the carbon within that building. So you pull that in, you can have real sort of data to go, we have this much carbon in our building for a 40-story tower. If you reduce all your slabs by 200 mil, this is the reduction in carbon content that you're taking out of your structure. So it's a massive driver at the moment. And we're all about sort of sustainable design, especially in the construction engineering space, where you reuse a lot of sort of member sizes, whatever the client has on hand, we can actually integrate into the design in order to stop that sort of new use of steel beams. We can reuse a lot of things. So it's a massive driver for us. We don't have we don't have control on the concrete makeup in terms of the specifics of the build-up, but we can actually help guide the client, sort of understand the carbon in buildings and sort of look to reduce that through efficient design.
Thank you very much to Robbie, Connor and Juliet for presenting with Robert Bird Group. Thank you very much.